Thank you. All right, next question goes to Jamie Franks.
Yes. It seems that both of you mentioned tort reform in your opening statements. That was a big issue in 2003, as I know very well. And it was acted on and passed in 2004. But we're still talking about it. It's still the boogeyman in the room that people are using, particularly against you, Mr. Franks. Can you tell me what, if any, changes you're going to make on tort reform, and Mr. Bryant as well?
Well, let me tell you, Mr. Williams, here's the deal. In 2002, I voted for general liability tort reform. In 2002, I voted for medical malpractice tort reform. In 2004, the bill that passed had my name on it. We've passed tort reform, and we're not going to look back and try to make some changes to it. It's a law that has worked, and we need to keep it in place. But here's what we need. We need insurance reform in this state, and we need it now. We were told when tort reform was passed that insurance rates would go down. Well, let me tell you something. My homeowner's rates just went up 18%. My car insurance just went up 12%. We have got to start protecting the consumers in this state, and we're going to get a new insurance commissioner, and hopefully we'll have somebody in that office that will be pro-consumer for a change.
You know, it is still the elephant in the room because people are concerned about it. Just as soon as it came, it could be taken away. So we're going to make sure we stand firm that we're not going to go back on tort reform, not 1 inch, not 1 foot. We're not going to change that law because it's been so successful thus far. There's other things that we can do. As I talked to some of the physicians around, we're just now getting rid of the medical malpractice pool. You know, we had to put it in place because doctors couldn't get medical malpractice. We're going to sell that now. And if I remember, we're going to put $6 million back into the general fund. That's a great step Senator Dean Kirby, who was chairman of the insurance committee, has taken. We might want to look at medical courts. That's a special courts and hear medical malpractice cases where the court selects the expert. So you don't get dueling hired guns out there to come in and testify against doctors. That's what we can do.
All right, next question.
On this back in grocery tax, if that money is, say, the groceries cut in half and cigarettes go up $1, what does that do to municipalities? What's that going to do to my property tax?
Well, we can only guess. And that's all it is. This is conjecture. And that's what worries me. I don't think those numbers will work. I don't think you're going to get the tobacco tax up high enough. You know, people are going to stop smoking. That's good. People are going to go across the line. They're going to order them on the internet. So those revenues are going to come down. Right now, if I remember correctly, and I'll not use this number, but cutting that in half would be about $1.28 billion loss to the state of Mississippi. Now, we're talking about diverting it back to the cities. You let us start running out of money, and July's revenues was very flat. We're down $10 million from where we thought we would be. So if we run out of money, the first thing we're going to do is cut off that diversion to the cities, and your cities are going to suffer. I can assure you, and they're going to say, and the Clare Elector's already admitted this, raise property taxes and raise income taxes. So this is a swap from the sales tax, which everybody pays, even illegal immigrants pay sales tax, to income and property taxes. That's what I fear. That's why we need to look at our tax system to make sure these changes are fair and responsible.
Phil, you're just dead wrong. Here's the issue. Working families in this state are paying the highest tax on food of any state in this country, and we need to do something about that. You can do that by cutting the sales tax on groceries in half. What you do is double the diversion back to cities. They lose nothing. He's talking about taking money away from cities. Well, let me tell you what, that could be done now. That's never been on the table, and it never will be. And the president of the Mississippi Municipal League, Johnny Dupree, the mayor from Hattiesburg, is a major supporter of mine and contributor to my campaign. He understands how municipal government works, and it's the right thing to do. He's never taken into account the health care savings that we can have if people stop smoking. Let me tell you, smoking kills. I never met my grandfather because he died at 62 years of age with lung cancer. And if we can do something to put a stop to that, we need to do it.
We had a group of 120 people that went to Georgetown, Kentucky. Kentucky to see the city and county there, Lexington as well as Georgetown. And it was amazing to see the cities and the counties working together and not having turf battles because they had no negatives from working together. Would you consider legislation that would enable cities and counties and regions to cut through all the red tape and work together without having to jump through hoops?
Russ, you're absolutely right, and those are the kinds of things we should be encouraging and we should be doing. And that's what we did with the Pull Alliance. That was something, when we had the Nissan legislation before us in 2000, Randy Kelly and others came to us and said we need to amend this to create the Pull Alliance. We were able to do that, and we saw what has happened. We put aside county boundaries, we put aside municipal boundaries, we put aside political partisanship. And we've come together and we've worked hard and we've been able to create jobs. No one person deserves the credit for Toyota coming here. It belongs to everybody. And everybody from the governor's office to Senator Cochran and Lott and Congressman Wicker, all the way to the state legislature, to the board of supervisors, and the mayors of these towns and cities. Everybody deserves credit because we all work together.
I think that's what Kurt Fordyce used to call a no-brainer. That means we all work together. Sure, cities and counties, Three Rivers, the state, the federal government. And we have a group of elected officials, and I was in Washington last week working with Trent Lott, the Inspector General's office on Katrina. I don't know anybody that wants to be resistant to progress in the state of Mississippi. We saw what happened here. We saw what happened on Katrina when the local governments worked together. I was so proud to tell the Inspector General of the United States that we'll have the lowest amount of fraud in this disaster of any disaster in the nation's history, because we got out front of it. The auditor's office put together a fraud unit down there to try to stop it. We put a technical assistance unit out there to try to help those local officials work together with them. And I think it's just as important for the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker of the house to be working together. We can learn from y'all.
Very good. Next question to Phil Bryant.
Yes, in recent years, organized labor has tried to create a Department of Labor here in Mississippi. And I would like to know if either one of y'all support such an idea, and if you do, why do you think that's necessary and what that Department of Labor would do?
No, I voted against that when I was in the legislature. I vote against it again. The last thing in the world that Peggy Bishop needs in her office, or the last thing in the world Toyota would want, is a State Department of Labor, where if you fired a bad employee or didn't promote one, you'd be drugged down there with a lawyer to Jackson before some board of arbitration and have to explain why you made a decision in your business. Now, the EEOC takes care of that on the federal level. I just cannot imagine why in the world we need a Department of Labor, another bureaucracy that would probably cost tens of millions of dollars to fund employees working out there, that would probably be a wholly owned subsidiary of the AFL-CIO. I'd vote against that.
You're absolutely wrong again. Now, what I'm trying to do with the State Department of Labor is shrink the size of government. I'm for government being leaner, not meaner. We need a one-stop shop for employers and employees to come to. We need everybody under the same umbrella. We need the Unemployment Security Commission, DHS, and others. You say, oh, that won't work? Well, let me tell you, that's what George Bush is trying to implement. That's what's happened in Florida with Jeb Bush. That's what's happened in Texas with Governor Perry. What we are trying to do is make sure that we have a one-stop shop, cut the cost of government, decrease the size of bureaucracy, and make sure that employees and employers are taken care of. It has nothing to do with doing away with right-to-work laws.